The narrative in Jurassic Park movies is usually the same. You have the ground opening. It goes like, "Dee-nee-nee-nee-nee, we know that. Let's avoid the copyright. And then you also have the genetically resurrected and also unstable dinosaurs everywhere. Everyone is so excited until, of course, eventually things go south. And then it is a race to contain the situation. Everyone is going around, "Wah!" And they are trying to avoid ending up in the dinosaur's belly. Does it ring a bell? Does it sound any familiar? You have your big project. We have a very cool application. Oh, let's show it to the world. We need to rush it to production. Why not? Until something breaks, or someone breaks something intentionally or unintentionally. And yeah, then it becomes a vicious cycle of incident-driven design. What is the common factor behind this? Security is mostly reactive. Maybe you do have some controls, but proactive security has left the room ages ago, probably with the dinosaurs. And they came back and not to help, precisely. So let's put some numbers behind this. In the IBM Cost of the Data Breach Report 2025, just published by the end of the year, it takes on average 241 days to detect and contain a breach at an average cost of $4.4 million. And I said average because the needle moves up and down depending on how your security posture is. Is it too proactive? Is it too reactive? Is it balanced? Or, the drill. And with the latest events, we know that is perhaps the numbers are even higher, sadly. Okay, so before I continue, who am I, right? I am Barbara Teruggi. I'm a security architect. And I do have a special connection with Jurassic Park. When the first movie got out, I was about 10-ish years. You can calculate my age now very easily. Yeah, Lex Murphy was my hero. She was my hero. She got me into computers because she really knew Unix systems. Well, those were really fun screens, but yeah, for me it was, I was 10. But eventually, as an adult, I am wondering, wow, she could traverse all the park systems without entering a single password. Oh, God. Okay, so what is the solution behind this problem that we have? The earlier, the cheaper, right? If we start thinking about security at the beginning, we know the drill. What does shift left means doesn't mean piling activities on the team at the left. Is actually starting earlier at the beginning. And before you write a single line of code. What does it mean? There is a whole application lifecycle, and it starts with 3 phases. The requirements and planning phase, where you care for regulatory and privacy requirements. You classify your data, criticality and sensitiveness, or etc. And then you estimate the security effort. Do you know how to develop your control, how to operate those technologies, the budget, what is the people that you need in the room, etc. And then you move towards the design phase, where you apply secure design principles. Then you would do the threat modeling thingy, which I gave a talk last year. You can find me on YouTube if you want. And you also, I'm always moving this to the first, but abuse case analysis. This is something that people in detection and incident responding when operations happen know about it too well. But if you do it at the very beginning, you're able to shape your security test and continue testing, the logging actually, and the incident detection patterns and everything. But today, we are going to focus on one thing that for me needs to be kind of brought back to the future. Let's say that's another movie. So the secure design principles. Okay, let's put some context to it. Okay, this was solved also not with the dinosaurs, but very, 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 very long ago. So let's look at the timeline of technology evolution and how the attack surface, what we call in cybersecurity, how bigger the area that can get attacked grows, has been going on. Okay, so we go back to the 70s, 69 actually. ARPANET was the first trusted network between trusted people, different institutions connected their supercomputers to each other, and you could log in from different terminals, but it meant remote access. Now you didn't have people physically coming to connect to your computer or to a terminal. There were people connecting from other buildings. So identity, who are you, what are you doing here, became more digital. Then okay, this is where I was born, and I broke the internet here. So, cross-network access, TCP/IP. Now it were different networks talking to each other. You couldn't tell exactly where the call was coming from. Now identity shifted from humans to also machines. So, human and non-human identities. Bigger attack surface, right? And we learned the lesson a little bit too late because commercial firewalls came right before World Wide Web. Actually, after a massive breach called the Morris worm, somebody was trying to guess the size of the internet, and he guessed it too well because he provoked a major outage. Okay, but this is when we started publishing our contents publicly. We were exposing from static content, and then throughout the years, we were exposing more things, databases, interacting. It wasn't more only about static content. And here is like the first application layer attacks happen. Hello. So then we have social media. You know, Friendster, MySpace. I did use MySpace. Fotolog. Oh, we were so eager to share our information to the world. And social engineering, the machinery was there growing, you know, because now they have different channels, not only emails. And yeah, we became also an attack surface, humans. Oh, God. Okay, these things get complicated, right? Oh, smart devices, yes. Now you can be you everywhere. You can sign up from everywhere. And you know, multi-factor authentication was there before, but for some reason, we are still solving this, not implemented that quite well. So your identity sprawl across everywhere. So now we have to try to trust you in many devices. And then 2010 is when the consolidation of cloud computing and API economy got booming. And it started the shared responsibility. Now trust was distributed across different companies because you could integrate to everything and you didn't need to have your infrastructure in your own buildings. Now you could rent it. But distributed trust does not mean that it's guaranteed. You have to do something, and you don't have to think that the others will do well. You have to do well. And okay, this is getting complicated, right? Now, generative AI, who you think are also augmenting, not only us, attackers as well. And we had Brian did a whole talk about prompt injection just moments ago. You can see here that if we haven't solved the human and non-human identity thing and the identity sprawl and what's not, okay, now we have to resolve our AI twins identities as well, and what they can do. Okay, yes, and then we have quantum. I'm getting tired. Don't you get tired already? Quantum computing. So we already lost that battle because this thing of harvest now, decrypt later means that attackers are compiling a lot of encrypted files because they are waiting for the time they get their hands on a quantum computer to decrypt everything. So yeah, we are always running late. Proactive security, guys. We need to invite them back to the party. Okay, to illustrate this, what I have told you is that in here we were doing things sort of good-ish, and the principles were born in 1975, 51 years ago. So why are we doing this? We should keep like this, right? Or, okay, this is going to go, but we should step up our game. Okay, let's see what are the principles. These principles came together for the first time in a paper published by Jerome Salzer and Michael Schroeder in a paper called Protection of Information in Computer Systems. I used the Times Roman because it was the actual lettering back then. This is 30 pages of paper. It's very interesting, but I will explain it to the light of 2026. You can read them. It's very interesting. You see, I transformed this, but they are very relevant, all 10 of them. So let's move and see what happens. Let's illustrate this first. Who has seen Jurassic World here? That this is the reboot of the saga? Oh, okay. This is when the first park didn't work, they opened another park yet again, and it kept working for a while. They did things a little bit better-ish. They did have incident responders and everything in case things go south. And apparently, the CEO of the park thought that the attractions, dinosaurs, weren't big and scarier enough, and he asked the scientists to create a new one, scarier, more teeth, blah, blah, blah. And they also had like a security company there called InGen, that was actually the owners of the DNA of these dinosaurs, and the head of security asked these scientists that he needed a weapon for war in the shape of a dinosaur, and so he said, "Make it happen." You know, and they pushed everything. They had to be quick because they had to meet their stakeholders, which were different. And so what do you get when you design in secrecy? Because DNA wasn't public, of course. The dinosaur was deployed in the same island as the actual active park was running with all the visitors. It was just a couple kilometers away. And he had a lot of features that nobody specifically asked for, so the scientists just put whatever they found. Okay, they got the unpredictable shock drawer monster. So eventually, when hell broke loose when he got out of its cage. Okay, so let's dive in and separate these principles into different blocks. The first ones are going to build the foundation of your systems. If you follow these principles from the very beginning, your application will last longer with more stability here. Okay, so the first one is called economy of mechanism, and it is actually of not throwing things that nobody needs in your application. Get away from complexity. If you don't know the technology that you're working for, either you learn first a lot of time, and then you might apply it, or don't add it to your application, because the more complex your system becomes, the more complex it is to fix it. For example, yesterday, I don't know if any of you had been in Alex's talk. He made a rant about AI, which I do agree. We have a lot of assistants that nobody asked for in our chat applications, and I don't want to be specific, but maybe you know which application I'm talking about. And we have a lot of AI assistants that nobody asked for in everywhere now because reasons. So this is an example of what you shouldn't do. So because you're exposing your users to things that they don't even know how to use or they don't want to use. Okay, the least common mechanisms is actually applying common sense. Don't put your eggs in the same basket. I mean, that dinosaur shouldn't be in the same island if it was so unstable. They were testing a dinosaur in the production environment. Come on, people. So also, if you go to the code, least common mechanism would apply to not keeping your secrets with the code. The secret should be away from the code. Also, if you have sensitive databases, you want to separate them from the code. Because if the attacker gets in your system, the lateral movement is going to be much easier for them. Open design. There is a whole debate about this dinosaur that I just told you about in Reddit. They are arguing why the DNA wasn't open. So, you know, the software shouldn't be like the formula of the Coca-Cola. You know, it said the more people know about how it works, the more the more possibilities to fix it. You know, with open source, a problem doesn't go too far because everybody is looking and everybody has the documentation and they can fix it. That's a very good example of open design. Also, keeping your SBOMs and taking care of them through the whole life cycle of the application, because if you know which libraries and which versions are you using, then you know if you need to patch or whatever. Okay, moving on. Once you have all these three fundamental principles, you're moving to the principles that are going to take care of the operations of your system or your application. So in the first movie, we had this guy, Nedry. He was the programmer, the only programmer in the whole park for everything. He has the keys to everything. He has all the responsibility. He can go everywhere unchecked. You know, the logs weren't working, actually. And he was the textbook definition of an insider threat. He was spying, and he wanted to steal DNA from the dinosaurs. So, yeah. So he decided that in order for the cameras not to film him, he would deactivate the whole security of the park because reasons. I mean, one button can turn off the whole security of the park. Oh, come on. That's the least common mechanism where it wasn't in the room. So this park didn't pass user acceptance test because it ate the users. You know, so how can we solve this? There is another model that is probably more famous than these principles, that is the zero trust model. And if you follow these 5 principles, you are going to be supporting this model. You are going to be applying this model somehow. So go to the basics. The first one is very well known, this least privilege. The less privileged user or system, an AI twin or whatever has, the less power these people have. So eventually, if a person gets attacked and the credentials are stolen, there's not much they will be able to do anyway. So don't grant permissions happily. Just in case access, no. It's like just grant the right permissions for the task you need to do and nothing else. Separation of privilege, also known as segregation of duties. This is more military. Actually, cybersecurity ingests a lot from the military because there were a lot of protocols and they work for cybersecurity. Okay, I hate acronyms, but here's one. Just do it yourself is not what you need to apply here. So what does it mean? The 4I principles, the sensitive operation needs one or more persons to approve these flows. So you would like to have approval flows. If you go to AI, keep the human in the loop. You know, that's one way. Also, having re-authentication. If you are using your bank application and you're to do a transfer, you ask for a second factor, not the only one that you used to log in. Also, if you're doing single sign-on, it's okay. But if you're doing sensitive operations, you have to add a different factor here. And then complete mediation. This is the heart of zero trust. Never trust, always verify. I also gave a talk like 2 years ago about API security and using API gateways. So don't give for granted that your web application firewall is going to stop an attack. If it fails, you can apply an API gateway and control something else there. If it fails, you have to control your endpoints. If it fails, you have to control keep validating, revalidating. Never cache the permissions because they can change over time. So always trust, never trust, and always verify. Compromise recording, this is an old login thing. You need to keep tabs on everything that is happening on your application, on your system, who did what, when, why. And, of course, I want to go back to the least common. You see, the least common mechanism keeps applying here. You want to keep your login system away from your applications, and also you would like to have it only on append mode, adding, not editing. So because that is your logbook, and you are going to use it for reactive controls, the ones I mentioned before, incident detection. You can study, if you do this abuse case analysis, you can create perfect alerts, that you will, the people that are actually monitoring will be able to see an attack from miles away. So you see that the principles are building into each other all the time. They are always complementing everything. And the last of this block is face-it defaults, which is, this one is deny by default, actually. Is if you have a doubt, the answer is always no, just in case. Actually, Brian Vermeer gave a talk about the dangers of the Java stack. You can search that on YouTube. He also mentioned this, that if you have a switch case here, this else thing, if nothing else happens, no. Don't. This case maybe is going to happen. So the default is no. No. So stick this to your head. If you don't have your authorization system in place, you have to always deny everything. If your firewall is down, probably you would like to have it on the configuration that it denies the calls, at least the most critical service. You need to configure everything in the way that there's no shadow of a doubt. It's preferably have someone waiting at the door and then checking if you let them in. And these last ones are very special. These are, I could do a whole talk about this, actually. But this is when, if we create these applications together, right? We create systems, but we are also users of these applications. And I want to maybe say something that happened to me. Actually, when I booked my hotel to come here, to this conference, the application that I used to book the hotel got breached. I get a email of those like every month, Something gets breached, okay, and again, And I received one of these phishing WhatsApp texts. Actually, it was a very poor attempt. It's like it's like if someone goes to steal and rings the bell. But yeah, you could tell them from a mile away. But maybe a user with a little bit less of awareness level could have followed and gave away the payment data. So I didn't took the bait, of course. But I distrusted the hotel. The first thing, my first reaction was, now I don't know if I will communicate to the actual hotel because I thought their account was compromised, not the actual application that was the broker for this hotel. So I canceled my reservation and I went and found another one. And then one day later, I found out that actually it was this application, the one that got breached. So imagine if a lot of people react like I do, because I'm an overthinker, and they cancel a lot of reservations. You're leaving a small business without their job of the day, So I don't know. Think about it. Think as users. Put yourselves in the shoes of the users. So this takes me to this principle that is called psychological acceptability. You have to make a system that to have enough guardrails and be as secure as possible, that it's impossible for the user to misunderstand how it works, and that the user can tell what is odd behavior, and how the user can get to you and tell you, hey, this has happened. I think this is not normal. You have to help your user. Bring these guardrails, make it as secure as possible, safe for them. Actually, I try to inform about this to this application, and you know what? They have replaced the customer service with AI. So eventually, say, okay, there you go. I will not talk to an AI. I want to talk to a human being. I feel unprotected, and it's ugly. You don't want that to happen. So on the other side of the coin, you have attackers. Of course, they are trying to enter the system. So if I go back, is your system also had to be so resilient that intentional abuse is impractical. The attackers operate on ROI, which is return of investment. So they want to have something after breaching you, okay? So in this case, our insider threat, this Nedry thingy, this Nedry person, didn't get away because he was his own hack bit him in the ass, and a dinosaur finished the task, and he never went out of the park. So this DNA didn't get out of the park, never made it out. But you don't have Mr. Speedy to save the day all the time, you know? So you need to build layers upon layers and layers and layers of security, and follow all the other principles, apply them to your application. So it's going to be very cumbersome, a lot of work for your attackers to get to your system. And if they get in, because we are always under attack, and as I said once, and this is not my saying, there are only two kinds of company, the ones that got breached and the ones that don't know that they got breached. So eventually it will happen. I bet you guys got some email every other month that this system or this other system has been breached. Careful with now because you're going to receive a lot of social engineering, blah, blah, blah. You know, so the thing is that you don't have to let them go so far. If you're following all the other principles, then doing threat modeling, all these proactive practices, okay, they're always adding up. There's only so much you can do. And one strategy that fulfills this principle very well is this defense in depth. This is also a military thing. You have the different layers. You know, I mentioned before, you have your web application firewall. If that fails, you can have your API gateway. If that fails, you have endpoint security. If that fails, you control again in the backend. If that fails, I mean, you can do a lot of things to slow down an attacker. And okay, now that I laid this out for you, how do you operate on this? What do you do when you go back to your jobs? Hopefully on Monday, if you took a Friday off. No? Okay. Sorry. I did. So what now? Start a conversation. You go back to your teams. You bring this topic back to your team and ask questions. Try to, scratch into your applications, think about all those principles, and say, are we doing this? Are we doing this other one? Find ways to fulfill this. And you can actually search. You can reach me out on LinkedIn. I will be happy to tell you 1,000 more examples, because I could go for an hour with each principle, because it has a lot of examples. That's how security starts. Debate. Use the coffee machine to debate, whatever, a lunch, I don't know. Of course, don't boil the ocean. Just start with one application, a model, one feature, try to put it to the test under the light of these principles and see if you're missing something, if there's something, a little action that you can do. It's better to do something than do nothing, and just start tomorrow. And then review your designs and your threat models. If they don't exist, that's your first finding. And actually, I would go back to that. Do you have documentation? Do you have the documentation that will inform new people that are coming to work with your systems up to date? That's another finding. So then read the news. This is nice. When you hear about a breach, I hope we get to hear less and less of this, but actually they're happening. But if you hear about a breach, try to guess what happened. Do that debate, bring that to your colleagues and think what could have happened, because it helps a lot to learn that and to bring that back to your applications and see, okay, have we done this? Okay, this happened here. Maybe we need to care about if we're doing this or not. And yeah, this last, I really feel that I have been in a talk this morning by Melinda. She talked about community glue work, actually, community glue work. And she discussed this, going to the conferences and the communities, getting your heads out of your bellies and share with people. You learn from each other's experience. You learn together. This is a very valuable place to go. I think I get a lot from coming to these places and talking to a lot of people. I learn a lot, and I take this back to where I work. Here in London, actually, I would like to suggest to cybersecurity-oriented communities that you could start going if you haven't yet. Which one is the OWASP London chapter. Do you know what OWASP is? Hands? Yes? Okay, I don't have to explain, but it's a global community about cybersecurity. It's an open source global community. Actually, they have a lot of projects, and it's my happy place, I think. And then the DevSecOps London gathering. I once attended a session online. They do this in person, which is I think it's preferably, but wow, I still get the emails of the sessions that they're doing. Is if I can fly over like for free, I would, because they are very, very active, and I really recommend you to do that. And okay, so I would say more and more and more, but now if you have questions, I would be very happy to converse with you guys, or thank you for hearing me out. So any questions in the room? Yes, Hans.
I work at the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, and every year we do a hackathon. Now, I am wondering whether it would be a good idea not to develop new features, but improve our security behavior. How could we use a hackathon to do so?
Good question. Because a hackathon is a one thing moment, but it's great to have that, because you could build a hackathon into bring in their features and their applications, and do like a sort of a get together and analyze the case, and get the whole team to work on that. Actually focus that one day in the security and find different little tasks that they could do, and put those back in if they are working in sprints or whatever, waterfall, agile waterfall, or whatever they are doing. But they can turn into tasks with the idea crafted in that very hackathon, because that's the moment that they are going to get the headspace and be present in the exercise and be able to actually stop and think. But I would go further here. And I've been thinking that also, if you have, I don't know if you have them in your company, but software reliability engineering, I think that these teams could also be shaped to be fixing security bugs while the application is in production. If you have, these people are always maintaining the application, so they are available at all times. Available and secure is also, actually availability is a form of security, but this also should be, it would be nice to integrate this kind of activities to these teams, because they are fixing as the developers are pushing new code. So if you want to do that with the existing applications, that could be good ways to do that. Any other questions or comments? Or I didn't understand this? Or more examples? Oh, there. Yes.
So you talk about threat models and checking back to make sure you've got threat models.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams find it difficult to do threat modeling. Are there any methods or frameworks that you can suggest that would make it easier for the teams to perhaps gamify that and get those things done easier and quicker?
Good question, thank you. About the threat models, it's always a tough cookie to introduce them for the first time. Moreover, when you are in a hurry to push to production, I would say that you could start with, you have two ways, because threat models is, ideally the threat model exercise would start when the application is still not existing, it's a design, etc. But the reality is that we do have applications in the production environment already. So you could go to one existing application, analyze one feature, just one, under the light of the threat modeling exercise. I mean, for applications, the best methodology that is called STRIDE actually is categorizing the different security problems that we call threats into different categories, which is spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. This is very long. But you could go and inspect one feature and start there to practice. I mean, if you pretend to do all the threat modelings now, probably you will abandon this practice right away. So create a habit. Do it small and do it in between times. Allow yourselves a little buffer time, not only to solve bugs and to run, but also to inspect while you are developing a new feature or a feature that exists to do this exercise until you got it clear, and then you can transfer it to the whole application as a health check, like going to the doctor. And eventually you will be able to add this to the newer. But to new applications, if you don't have time to do threat modeling, you can use the principles because they will get you to do more proactive. The threat modeling is like the cotton test to that once you're already gone through your principles. Any other questions? Yes, I see a hand there.
Yeah, on the previous one, just a quick one. What I find useful is to use LLMs. Actually, they're really, really good at threat modeling. So it's cheap. It's pretty much instant, so you can go and use them. And as a founder of a cybersecurity company, I find it extremely challenging to sell security. So the only thing I would comment on is you need to sell it to the business people in your organization, because nobody wants you to waste time on security, on fixing things that don't exist, and so on and so forth. So I can't see, business stakeholders approving engineers spending time in security exercises, and they have to make sense. So what we find useful is to actually explain how do you spend less time, less compute, how do you save money on, say, clouds, right? So instead of serving bots and processing their requests in the middle of the cycle, you can go left and do more of integrity controls, and this is how you don't waste this much compute. So things like that help if that's of any relevance. That's the only thing I was missing in your talk. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, because it adds up. I think it's actually a very, and I was having a conversation about talking to the business this very morning. It's of course it's very difficult to convince the business because they're always thinking, where's the return of investment here? So I would change the word to you're keeping your investment. If you pay all this money and you just the last 2 days in production, you're going to lose all the money and you will have to put more money into it. But a way maybe to discuss this with the business, besides what you just stated, like how to save money in computing, to put more controls here because you're saving money here and reinvesting it here, it's also reply with the same argument. They are selling a product, right? And the product has a life cycle, and the product is facing different regulations because they are operating in one market or the other. So there are business rules that apply, and the product gets sold and gets less sold, and maybe the product is not working and it's failing. Talk about the product, and like if it was a house that you build it once, but you had to maintain it, otherwise it's going to fall over you. So you can talk the business with the business language and talk about if you spend this money now and save it from less infrastructure or whatever, or actually this economy of mechanism principle for them is you can explain it. Do your customers really need this feature? Because if you want to develop this feature, maybe the engineers that you have first need to learn how to do that securely. And then you really need to know if your users are going to want your feature. Don't put it because it's the ultimate hype, So yeah, it's having the conversation with the business requires to have a different language. So, and also you said yes, AI for threat modeling. Actually, I would recommend if you go down that path because actually it's cheaper. Yes, because you have licensed applications to do threat modeling, but you can use, I would say, the Opus 4.7 or 4.6 models of clouds are actually very nice into security thinking. But of course, they have a disclaimer at the bottom. AI can make hallucinations. Please check. This is also true for threat modeling. Don't buy the answer. Challenge it. Because when you're doing threat modeling, you get also like references to understand the different threats, the different problems that you detect in the form of codes that are called vulnerabilities, CVEs that are called. I don't know if it rings a bell in the room. Or KPEC, which is another reference from the same place, the same organization called MITRE, which is the Common Attack Patterns Enumeration and Classification. Whoa, con the acronyms. But they explain how this problem happens. And also, I would say that you could use AI to complement the exercise with something that is called the attack chain. Because you have, once you categorize all the threats, it's better if you understand how one can lead to the other. So, because the attacks doesn't happen like a hacker enters and that's it. A hacker may compromise an account, then enter with the account, then do the lateral movement, blah, 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 and eventually get to their final objective, which is exfiltrating information. So I would say AI is good if you refactor it a lot. So keep challenging and always try to have clarity on what are the requirements, because otherwise you don't know what you're modeling. So yeah, maybe I still have some minutes, so if you have any other questions, I can still answer. I really love this. So really love questions or comments like this. Okay, so if nothing else, yes? There's a, sorry. My lateral vision failed.
Would it be interesting to make a case for like the opposite of our customer journey movement and then make hacker journey a really bad experience?
Really bad. That would be helpful if you do this abuse case analysis, actually, because if you analyze the business logic and think, okay, the happy path is this one, and the unhappy path are all of this, and you start creating all the maps, and then you start setting up the mines all along the way. Actually, it could be an entertaining idea for a hackathon. Yeah. Actually, if I lean back to your other question.
Excellent, thanks.
Sorry. Some other? Okay, so thank you for coming. See you soon. And yes, please. Pretty please. made my talk. Actually, it's convenient that I get the dinosaur.